Hello, I'm Penny Thornton and welcome to my astrology channel. This is where I take a subject, in this case, the new moon in Virgo, and then I weave all sorts of other little interesting things along with it because, every new moon in Virgo is different because it's surrounded by other planetary angles, and these all make a difference. They change the story a little bit. Now, one of the things I've been doing recently is explaining how new moon, full moon cycles go together. Not just the normal monthly one, you get a new moon each month and a full moon each month, and so that's the 28-day cycle. But I look at a kind of 6-month cycle, which looks at the new moon, whenever that may be, and roughly 6 months later, we get a full moon in that same sign. And so that is part of the new moon, full moon cycle in a rather different way. And so this time, just in general, we're looking at the new moon on the 17th of September in the sign of Virgo. And we want to look at when that becomes a full moon in Virgo, 6 months hence, and we're going to be looking at the 27th of February next year. So 2 ways to look at this. We think of new moons and we think of new beginnings always. Now, you may just find new chapters open all by themselves, as if by magic, it just happens. But you know my general attitude to astrology. I like to work with what we've got. I like to think it's purposeful in helping guide our lives. And so this idea of a new moon in Virgo being a time of new beginnings, it's a really good time to set something in motion that will probably take around 6 months to really reveal itself. I mean, there are so many things that take about half a year to really, be completed. And we think of gestation cycles, like the gestation of a baby. That's 9 months. That's a 9-month cycle. But there are other things that you can begin at this time with a view to seeing how far it's come by the end of February next year, or deliberately setting it within that 6 months kind of phase. Now, what I also want to look at is the general effect of a moon in Virgo. We all have Virgo somewhere in our charts, in our solar charts. And so that new moon is going to create a new beginning in that particular area of life. But certainly if you're a Virgo, a new moon is very personal. It's about a personal new beginning. And if your birthday happens to be on or near the 17th, let's give it a day on either side, then that really is an imprint in your year ahead. It's going to make its presence felt in your solar return chart. So this is not only a month or a period of new beginnings, it now becomes a year of new beginnings. I often say that if you have a new moon on your birthday, it signals a pioneering year ahead. You'll be doing lots of things you've never done before and crossing into new territory, which is exciting. One way or another, when we do new things, it refreshes us. It's also, for Pisces, an important new moon because this means it's taking place in your opposite sign. And so we're in the area of relationships. And this can be the beginning of a new phase for a relationship. You can be in a relationship for years. And so you get a new moon in this area. And it's like, it's time for a review. Let's bring some new things into our relationship. Let's freshen it up. And with that freshen up, we find new things about each other. But it can also be a new start. If things have been difficult in a relationship, a working relationship, a romantic relationship, a friendship, even a family relationship, then this new moon, if you're a Pisces, says, it's time to reboot, renew, and, get over the past. When we look at Gemini, we're looking at the 4th house. This new moon falls in the 4th house of your solar chart. So we're in the whole area of home and family. So a new start here on the home front may speak volumes to you because, in fact, you're moving home. Or maybe you're planning an enormous renovation and redecoration scheme, adding more to your house. or maybe this is about the family itself. So there are new arrivals expected, whether by birth or by marriage, or just sort of changes within the family unit that amount to a new beginning. For Sagittarius, it's the 10th house. And so here we look at life goals. It's also career, but of course, not everybody has a career. And I'm always being told by people, why do you talk about career? I haven't got one, don't care about one. But this is the area of career. So if you're a Sagittarian and you've got a new moon in this 10th house, which you do, solar chart-wise, then it is about making a fresh start career-wise, whether that's just new stuff coming into the workplace. So you've got new challenges, good ones, or whether it's a completely new job or a new position. And certainly if you're looking for a new job or looking to change your job, and, you know, thanks to the coronavirus, there's been a lot of people having to hunt around for new positions. This is a really good time to think not just about, you know, getting a new job, but about broadening your territory, about thinking, you know, I've done this same old thing for as long as I can remember. You know, why don't I widen my field of experience? Now, just in general, for all the signs of the zodiac, when we look at the new moon in Virgo, we're thinking about the things that Virgo has dominion over. And the single word that we always put with Virgo, we astrologers, is service. Virgo is a sign of service. And so when we look at a new moon in Virgo, we're brought into the service industries, social services, the health system, education. And that's really during the time the sun is moving through the sign of Virgo. These things become especially prominent. And with a new moon, then you get some new beginnings here, you get some fresh information, fresh developments around the time of the new moon on the 17th of September. But one of the things that I want to look at here, this idea of the sun in Virgo, really in the middle to late part of August, what were the big news stories? Certainly in Great Britain, everybody was talking about education because of the results of the A-level and GCE were all really messed about because of the coronavirus. And there were a lot of things done by governments that really didn't give a true picture of what those results could be. And it was a real furore among, you know, students and parents and generally the whole of the education system. But not only that, what was the other big story and continues to be a big story is the idea of getting everybody back to school. Too many students have been out of school, you know, they have been closed, and it's been largely virtual learning or learning with the help of your parents. And I think this idea of going back to school is it's appropriate for the while the sun is moving through Virgo. It's just the right thing to happen. Just in general, to things to do with the health service and things to do with our own health, I guess. This becomes a good time. And I think, you know, coming into September and throughout September, we know there are 3 months to the end of the year. And a lot of us think about making dental appointments and getting, you know, a health checkup or our various things that we do to monitor our health. So all this comes into the whole of the Virgo experience. What I also wanted to look at, and what I did look at in my last video, I looked at the idea that Venus was moving through the sign of Leo, and I want to catch up on that because what happens just before the new moon in Virgo is that Venus forms an angle with Uranus, and that's a little bit revolutionary. So I think particularly if you are a Leo, an Aquarian, a Taurus and a Scorpio, and you have your birthday around the first of your month, that means it's the 1st of May, or it's the 1st of August, or it's the 1st of November, or it's the 1st of February, then this Uranus-Venus aspect is very prominent in your solar chart and in your life. And what we get from this, and it matches really the idea of a new beginning, is that something new will come up that really is quite revolutionary. It's sort of is something you haven't done before. And if we think about Venus, which has so much to do with love and relating, has to do with finance as well, we can see that around this time, during the time of the new moon, there may be some really unexpected developments linked to your love life, maybe a sudden meeting with someone, and suddenly all the sparks are flying. It's you're 10 foot off the ground. This is serious attraction. Or we've got the opposite side to Uranus. Instead of bringing about new beginnings, it's taking out the old, so that things in a relationship may reach some kind of pitch where you feel, you know, this isn't working anymore. This is not working for me. Coming back again to the idea of this new moon on the 17th of September, it's closely angling the planet Saturn. It's what we call a trine. It's a harmonious link. It's 120 degrees away. And you might think initially, oh, that sounds wonderful. How good that the new moon is trining Saturn. Well, you've always got to remember that you're looking at the planets themselves. I know the moon isn't a planet, but let's give it its astrological quotation marks, call it a planet. The moon and Saturn are not a happy couple. You put the moon and Saturn in a room, no matter how they're facing each other, what their relationship is, it's going to be a little gritty. You have to work very hard with a new moon in Virgo when it's linked to Saturn. And if we think about the meaning of Saturn, just those two simple keywords, construction, good, constriction, bad, then we can certainly see that it is possible at this time that there is a lot of perhaps difficult emotional stuff here, whether we're looking at events in our own lives or maybe out on the world stage and feeling they're quite difficult to swallow. But it's also this idea of working hard and making your emotions work hard. And that's a good thing. You know, we can't always just relax and let it all soak up in a good way. Sometimes we have to work with our emotions to really get them to be appropriate. So we're putting Saturn with the moon, and we're finding that it's not, you know, all a wonderful, beautiful new thing. You know, it's going to involve some hard work. Another thing I want to look at really in regard to Virgo as well is that sometimes this sign is considered to be a little bit, you know, vanilla. There isn't a lot to Virgo, and my goodness, that couldn't be further than the truth. When we think about every sign of the zodiac, has its qualities. They're all different. None are more important than another. They're just different. And sometimes people apologize for being Virgo. I don't know how many times I've sat with clients or I've met someone on a plane or a train and they said, yeah, I'm afraid I'm a Virgo. And I think, why are you afraid of being a Virgo? It's an absolutely wonderful thing. But I think sometimes Virgo is, or people get the idea of Virgo virgin. This must mean a rather, you know, it's a kind of, not a very passionate sign. Well, it couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, Virgos, in terms of sex and passion, are really, you know, they really work at it because Virgo has a great work ethic. So you get Virgos work at being the best lovers they can be, work at love. And of course, we could turn that around and say, maybe Virgos are sex workers. But no, that's I'm just kidding. That's not real. But it's just we put those ideas of work and service along with things to do with feelings and love and romance. The Virgos are some of the best lovers in the zodiac. And I thought I'd just drop that one in case you're making sweeping statements about Virgos without realizing just what a deep and considerate sign they are in so many ways. And I also want to look at this myth about Virgos being perfectionists. It's Libras who are the perfectionists of the zodiac. What Virgos are is seekers of excellence. What Virgos want to be is the best of themselves. They strive for excellence. And, you know, that is a different kind of emphasis really on being the best you can be. So while the sun is in Virgo, and certainly that new moon in Virgo, that's rebooting in a sense in all of us, this idea of being the best we can be and doing our best. Now, let me see where else I want to go here. I think I want to look a little bit about this idea of Saturn as well. I want to take us back on Saturn, because in the next couple of weeks, as we move forward towards that new moon in Virgo, we're drawing towards the end of the month, and we've got some really important aspects to Saturn. And most important of all, Saturn is turning direct. So on the 29th, Saturn changes direction, but of course it's been stationary for a few days just before that. And I always say that when a planet is stationary, it's kind of super powerful. And so all its properties are in full range, if you like. So Saturn has been retrograde for a little over 4 months. It turned retrograde, I think, around about the 11th of May. So it's about 4.5 months. Now, some people can't get their heads around the idea of a retrograde planet. It's all very easy to see with Mercury, because Mercury is about communication and travel. And we can see pretty well immediately Mercury goes retrograde. We have, log jams on the information highway, and log jams when we're out trying to get from A to B. It's a little different with a planet like Saturn. It's more nuanced, so that the planet still stays the same, but what's happening during that period of time is that it is working in a slightly different way. And the way I would draw a parallel here is a parallel in cooking. If you marinate a piece of chicken or a fish or whatever you want to marinate in herbs and spices or whatever you want to marinate in, and you leave it then in the fridge for a few hours or a few days, that flavoring is going to change the flavor of that piece of chicken, piece of fish. It alters the flavor quite subtly, but it's there. And the same thing happens with a retrograde Saturn, still the same planet, but the way it's developing its flavor is according to those events and experiences that are happening during that 4.5 months. And you can apply that in your own lives. You can have a look at this period from early May through to the end of September and think about the things that Saturn represents. Often Saturn does represent the things that we find most difficult in life, the things we have to strive for. Often the material world is Saturn's realm. And so you look at perhaps what's been happening, the events that have been happening, the processes that have been going on. Because as you come to the end of September in this stationary Saturn period, those things that have been kind of brewing, percolating, altering their seasoning, if you like, are going to start to manifest. And one of the things I think of really that we can directly relate this Saturn retrograde cycle to, and its turn direct, is what's been happening all over the world, really, with the protests and the violence and law and order. We've heard a lot about law and order in America, of course. It is the topic of conversation. And during these months since May, we have really seen, well, since the murder of George Floyd, we've seen all those protest gathering. They've spread across the world to Black Lives Matter. And we've seen how these protests are spawning all sorts of other ills and angst about society and government and everything. And this across the world in various kind of countries, we've seen this happening. So as we come to the end of September and Saturn turns direct, we're going to start to see the result of all that. We are going to see either some more, shall we say, more draconian action from governments to populations. We're going to see the manifestations in a very, very different way about all the law and order issues. They're going to become topics, not just as they are now, but really, really mainstream issues. And on the day that Saturn turns direct, Mars is also squaring it. And you know, I've talked on other videos about Mars as it moves through Aries. It is really a very violent and destructive and angry kind of Mars, not because Mars in Aries is like that. It's because Mars is continually squaring up to this difficult Saturn-Pluto-Jupiter combination that we have in the sign of Capricorn. So let's move on a little bit. And, you know, as we come to the end of September, we're turning the corner into October. The first thing that happens is that full moon in Aries. And that's going to start a whole new story for us. And obviously, I'm going to be talking about that on another video very soon. So I want to wrap up a little bit. I suppose what's happened, we couldn't keep Saturn out of the conversation this time. It's really been quite a strong and dominant force, first of all, because of its link to the new moon in Virgo, but also because of its change of direction. And I want to think about Saturn in our own lives. I mean, there's no way about it. He is our planetary bogey. We don't like him very much. And the very reason is because Saturn represents the things we don't like. And when we don't like things, we don't like to do them or be with them or experience them. And so they become things we fear. Whereas, of course, what we need to do is really focus on them. We need to focus on the things that we find difficult. We need to learn how to struggle to get the results. So I think really in terms of, again, looking at how we look at the world, and we think so often we feel helpless when we look out at situations all over the world and say, what can we do to help? We can't all of us join Médecins Sans Frontières and get out there and help the people who are suffering. We can't all make decisions in government about how to deal with the economy. But what we can do is face our own fears. We can deal with the things that we find difficult. We can master them. And I think I sort of left you with that idea in my last video, the idea of what we can do in order to help the great collective, the rest of the world, is to master our circumstances. And certainly with this strong Saturn influence, we're beginning to see build up as we go through September, then we have to manage our Saturn. And if we don't like the disappointments that come our way, we don't like the rejections, the failures, the lacks, the insufficiencies, the blocks that we encounter, it's no good moaning about them and complaining about them and using the same old script that we say all the time. We need to create a new script. We need to look at those things in a new light. We may still have to struggle, but at least we'll be doing it differently. And I can certainly say from experience, and I hate to say this, but I've just lived so long, a lot of experience. And I have really, you know, whenever I find a Saturnian stone in my shoe, instead of berailing the road for allowing me to get a stone in my shoe, I take the shoe off and get rid of the stone and then figure out how to limp on thereafter. So have a good couple of weeks until I speak to you next time. And thank you for watching. Bye for now.